Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grey Matter Talks Tech podcast, your go-to source of practical insights into the trends and technologies shaping the tech world today. I'm your host, Shaun Baker, and in today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Ozan Gosbazi from Optiyol. We'll be chatting about the mapping tools Optiyol uses, which enable logistics departments and businesses worldwide to function effectively. Hello, Ozan. Welcome to our podcast, and thank you very much for taking the time to sit with me today.
Hello, you are welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Pleasure is all ours. Now, for anyone who's listening and might be new to your organization, Optiyol, if you could just give us a quick overview, Ozan, of who you are and what your company does, please.
My name is Ozan, one of the co-founders of Optiyol. My background is in industrial engineering, optimization. I did my undergrad in industrial engineering in Turkey, then went to United States, did my master's and PhD in optimization at Georgia Tech. I worked as an algorithm engineer at some, again, supply chain optimization startups before Optiyol. And at Optiyol, we are a transportation planning, optimization, and execution platform. So at the beginning, due to our background, we started with the optimization piece. But over time, companies also requested features on how to execute these optimized plans and monitor them. So it became more end-to-end solution. Also covering not just last mile, but also end-to-end transportation from manufacturing plants, local distributor warehouses, until final mile delivery. So we cover for companies like the Danone Craft movements in their long haul movements from plants to local DCs. Again, with companies like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, from local warehouses to retail store replenishment. And for online grocery companies like doing the home delivery, we work with MediaMarkt, like working with IKEA installation teams on that. So we are covering end-to-end transportation flows.
Brilliant. So it's an interesting source of, there's legacy businesses in there, traditional businesses like Coca-Cola, and then there's the more modern trends of purely delivery-based businesses. And it sounds as if you're also involved there with the last mile, which is a key topic for all of our here customers. So that sounds really, really exciting and interesting. But your background has always been in optimization. You always felt like you were going in that direction.
Yeah, the optimization, like we started optimization, the companies asked like, what do we do now? You give us routes. So what will we do with them? Like, will we print and give out to drivers? In that case, even still there's no visibility how to know whether they follow the routes or not. So then that led to building the mobile applications for them, the live monitoring features. And also even some of them are working with third-party carriers and how to manage the relationship with the carriers, how to make settlements, how to, again, make sure they're paying the right amount. They're paying for the optimized routes, or maybe drivers doing something else and then they're paying a higher fee. So it also helped to gain additional benefits through that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just route optimizations, is it? There's also a cost optimization part to all of this, which is really important. So as a founder, what was the initial problem you were trying to solve when you founded the business? Or do you think some of those problems appeared organically once you spoke to the market?
Yeah, coming from academic background, so our observation was that there was a huge literature of optimization. There's optimization technology available, but even if big enterprise scale companies, most decisions were still like manual, based on manual experience of some planners. So there had to be some companies bridging it. So I worked for one of them when I was in the United States. Like SmartOps was trying to build inventory optimization solution to help companies like optimize inventory, safety stocks. So that also gave a motivation. Like then the founder was also from an academic background. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. He turned it into a software company, and then lots of companies started benefiting from that academic knowledge through the software. So we built a similar thing on the transportation side, like the same challenge, manual planning, but there's transportation technology, optimization technology. So Optiyol became the bridge, and we found some good companies to work with. To start with, we were lucky to work with like global known brands. They had interesting challenges, like the most complicated scenarios, which also helped us build a solution which can cover and then cover these challenges and then become a practical tool. Because on one side, you make assumptions in some problems, certain problems in academy, if your goal is only to just publish something. But if you try to build a software for this, then you need to account for all the edge cases, like the long tails that they come to you, like a complaint from a driver, a complaint from a planner, a complaint from a manager. You need to account for all these practical challenges. And then that's actually the bridge I am mentioning. So it's not just listening to the field and then building something, then that becomes just an automation of a manual process. If you just go with the theoretical parts, the theory makes some assumptions because they need to move on. So companies like Optiyol is again bridging this gap.
Yeah, the bridging concept is really, really important. And obviously, there are challenges and you can automate everything, but you need to have, like you mentioned, you need to have mentioned the edge cases and people have knowledge as well. So people need to be able to, I guess, add their own local knowledge to the knowledge that you're providing as well with the software. So do you think the main challenges in terms of your clients, is it mainly planning the routes or is it what happens on the day or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. More on the planning, I can say. So like the monitoring and execution is a challenge, but there are some tools like they use fleet telematics and other solutions to monitor the field. Planning is a bigger challenge, like making sure you produce, like actually balancing the trade-offs. Like you have cost and then customer service. And these are conflicting objectives. Like you can wait until filling a truck and then go out 100%, but if you wait too much, then the deliveries are late. So this is like one trade-off. Or customers have preferred time slots. Like if you deliver really on their time slots, I want my product delivered between like 1 a.m. to 1 to 2, and then you can deliver it, but it may be a higher cost because a nearby customer may prefer another hour. You need to come back or send out two separate resources. If you just focus on this, like making customers happy, but you also think about the cost of it. So the planning challenge is that like in one model, like giving in all these customer expectations, all the cost parameters, what's the cost of a driver, what's the cost of a truck, what's the cost of driving a mile, fuel costs, energy costs. And then if you combine all of them in one pool and then optimize it in a reasonable time. So that's another challenge. So like a perfect solution, which comes maybe one day later, is not useful. You find a good enough solution in a quick time, which can be executed on. So in that regard, I can say planning was a bigger challenge and also depends on the industry. In long haul optimization, for example, capacity utilization, transportation cost, like network efficiency is critical. In last mile delivery, customer service, because you are now dealing with the end customer, is a bigger challenge, like shelf availability if you are going to direct store delivery. So again, like the objectives, expectations from the route planning is also changing depending on what part of the supply chain you're optimizing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that goes into it. And I'm guessing a lot of your customers are running this overnight, every day, and 24/7, right? In terms of your customers, they're doing deliveries all through the day. And there's, yeah, lots of overnight processes, I would imagine.
Yeah, it depends on the industry again. So some companies they plan ahead, like they collect orders today, for example, and then in the afternoon or sometime in the evening they start creating routes for the following day. But for some companies, they keep receiving orders. Let's say in e-commerce operation, they don't want to keep a very strict cutoff time. Like one of our retail customers, they run optimization at 5 a.m. in the morning, for instance. So if you're a customer ordering at night 4 a.m., you can still get your delivery same day because your order will also appear in that day's optimization pool. And like for online grocery, obviously it's like a live, always 24/7. You keep receiving orders, you keep dynamically optimizing, adding, inserting like these new orders to the existing routes. So at any time of the day, when we go to Optiyol, like as admins, we can see all the plans. Like at any time of the day, there's always an optimization running in the back.
Exactly. Yeah. 24/7 operations. And yeah, things are changing. People are expecting deliveries 24/7. So you've got the mobile application part of your service. You've got the planning software. When you're speaking to potential customers, what is it that you think makes your software stand out if they're looking at the market and looking at solving these problems?
Right. So if you look at like the solutions in the market, like some are, as I mentioned at the beginning, focused just purely on last mile. They don't have the breadth of like covering different stages of transportation. For some of them, they're just focused on the planning part. To your previous question, they don't have the execution capabilities. Some are completely what we call transport management software, purely focused on execution, not much like sophisticated optimization algorithms. So we try to cover and then address the gaps in all these three groups. So in Optiyol, we have advanced algorithm parts, the execution capabilities, monitoring capabilities, with carrier integration, carrier management, cost settlement, some of these TMS features. And we are trying to become like a transport management software, but with sophisticated optimization engines, which can cover the transportation flow end to end.
Great. Yeah, there's so much in there, isn't there? We have a lot of customers at Grey Matter who may have really high performing TMS, but then they they're missing other technologies, and they need to then integrate and fill in the gaps. So yeah, certainly sounds like your full end-to-end solution would be really powerful, and I can see why people would be going for that. Also reducing complexity by having lots of different solutions and then trying to integrate them, which of course, as you can imagine, Ozan, is probably its own headache. So as you go out into the market and you acquire additional customers and your customer base grows, how do you approach scalability and performance of your solution?
Yeah, the optimization is like depending on the industry. For some companies, let's say in last mile delivery, they may have maybe more than 2,000 orders at a time that you need to optimize, like delivering packages in the city with, let's say, a fleet of 60 trucks. But for some of them, maybe a small business or 5 trucks, 100 orders. So really depending on the customer use case, the scale of the optimization is different, and how much time it will take to optimize is different. What time of day they will run these cases will be different. So our platform is on the Amazon cloud. So it's using Kubernetes technology, containers. So depending on the customer orders, we have workflows for each optimization, depending on scale assigned to right type of resource. Resources are scaling on a need basis. So that's how we manage scalability on our side.
Okay, so yeah, loss of containerization and the elasticity of the public cloud. Can you think of a customer that's given you the biggest technical challenge?
Yeah, in terms of optimization, again, like some companies just focus on one mode of transportation. So you have orders and then you only need to assign them to trucks. The biggest challenge was that like one logistic company wanted us to decide which orders to actually put in the trucks, which order to send in less than truckload, which means like sending it like a parcel. You pay per piece. You don't need to buy for the whole truck. That's another option in the optimization. And the more difficult on top of that is they have some cross-dock locations throughout the country. You can put products in a full truck. It can deliver until your consolidation center. From there, it can be a parcel, maybe like a cheaper parcel because now the distance is closer to the end location. So having the engine to optimize these 3 options for the load in the same optimization pool and with maybe complex cost calculations. So it's not just multiplying the distance by cost per kilometer or cost per mile. So the transportation cost itself is depending on the destination, depending on number of stops. Sometimes you pay for this additional stops. The parcel costs are depending on the origin, whether doing the parcel from the beginning or from the consolidation center. So bringing all these inputs and constraints together and then giving this right output was a big optimization challenge, optimization wise. But also it's really a big saving for this company. Like for a logistic company, this saves like about 15%, which is very significant if you think of like millions of dollars in
15%.
cost.
Wow. So it
Yes.
was worth all, yeah, I can imagine all that extra time, the bespoke development and everything you had to do for them. Significant ROI. So that's really interesting. So yeah, obviously you're developing, improving your algorithms for a custom use case, and yeah, delivering that. Yeah. How do you feel when the customer tells you at the end how much it's saved?
Yeah, it's like once we build it, we always also ask for potential customers a base cases. So how do you do it right now? Taking their historical routes and then comparing it against the algorithm you develop and then doing the side-by-side comparison, seeing the savings. So that's a good moment of like relief, like all this effort is paying off. Also on the customer side, they also work with you providing this data because even providing data for big companies is a challenge. Data sits in different places. Some of them is not even recorded in the past. So they go out and collect this data for you. So yeah, it's good to share that experience with them.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine you build up good relationships with your customers. In terms of the day to day, you've mentioned AWS as being really key to relying on it on the daily basis, the availability of the public cloud. Are there any other tools or platforms that you can think of that are part of this day to day?
Yeah, for routing, mapping is an important component before optimizing any route. Let's say you'll deliver to 1,000 points. You need to know what's the distance, what's the travel time between any 2 points. Because when you build a route, you can connect any dots on that map. So what if I connect these 2 dots? What will be the distance and travel time impact? So for that, we rely on map service providers. We are using here maps. So that's core technology for us, like this cloud services and the map. These are like the utilities. Like without them, Optiyol cannot function actually. So they are core into the algorithm. And then their quality is also critical in terms of reliability, like serving these customers. These are operational software. If you cannot create the route, you cannot load your trucks, they cannot go out and deliver. So your cloud should be reliable, your map service should be reliable. the predicted traffic values, predicted driving times should be accurate. Otherwise, your estimated time of arrivals, the ETAs that you share with customers, will be wrong and then reduce their satisfaction. So that's why we also invested to use best of breed on both the cloud and map service providers.
Exactly. Yeah. So here technologies are constantly building up that historical and real-time traffic picture to maintain the accuracy of those ETAs. They're obviously using AI as well to examine the routes that the cars are taking and making sure that they're still creating the optimum route. So yeah, it's really important that you touch upon that. There's a continuous piece of work there that the mapping cloud provider are doing to stay reliable and keep those ETAs, on point and accurate for your customers. And the moment those ETAs become unreliable, I guess you're hearing a call from your customer and there's a concern, right? So you have to manage this, I guess, with every customer.
Yeah, there are two components. One is the travel time and also the time to service the customer. Time to service the customer depends on really the use case. If you are doing a parcel delivery, maybe it's quick. But if you are doing maybe beverage delivery to a retail store, finding parking, finding the right person, unloading all these products from the truck, it's a longer time. So for a reliable optimization, you need to estimate both accurately, how much time you will spend for delivery, how much time you will spend for driving. And then for driving, you need this external resource, a reliable map provider. And also that functions across geographies. You have customers in different cities, different countries, and then that map service should be available in those markets.
Yeah, that's how we feel at Grey Matter. Customers are always challenging us, they're always moving into new markets. And you need to check to make sure that here has the data. And this is, another thing that here are constantly having to do is to make sure they're entering new markets and building out their products. So, yeah, I think there's a good balance there. And I think that's really, really important. So, in terms of building on your solution, what does a good development workflow look like in terms of your team working on continuous improvement? Because, we keep mentioning continuous improvement. I think that's a really important theme.
So one thing, this kind of routing software is when they start using a routing software, they are replacing a really traditional way of route planning, relying on human experience. Those people feel like they know the city street by street. They think they have that knowledge. So there is some resistance when you give them a tool that now do the route planning on behalf of them. So in that process, you need to be focused, we call it hypercare periods. So that's why in our team, we have solution consultants, what we call them. They're also becoming like a partner to them and then collecting requirements from customers, observing them, learning what's missing, continuously collecting feedback from them. That's building our roadmap. And those solution consultants are working very closely with our engineering team. So we build out the roadmap. We are developing in 2-week sprints. So developing in optimization, maybe sometimes you need to improve your optimization engine, sometimes you need to improve your user interface, some new screens, maybe new reports can be a request from drivers to make it some function easier or maybe to collect more information from the field. So we develop on different parts across the tool. Sometimes the DevOps improvements on the cloud side, improving efficiencies, executing those workflows faster, maybe looking for alternative servers, because even the computer you choose to run these optimizations really matters. Recently, we tried using some bare metal servers, so which significantly improved the optimization speed. So it's again, continuous development with customer feedback. So in addition to customers, again, we are also following the trends in the industry, the electrification of trucks, autonomous trucks. Those are coming now. Supply chain is more end-to-end. Just focusing on transportation is sometimes not enough. You need to consider the sales, inventory, manufacturing for long-haul routing, the product readiness when they will be available to route. Again, if you make a good production plan, then your transportation plan is also more efficient, delivering to similar geographies at the same time. You have more better utilized resources.
Connecting more into the ERP side of things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. If you just purely focus, purely expect customer to send you orders and then route them. So that's one piece. You can already solve it. But how can we provide feedback from this transportation planning so that they are sending the right orders on the right planning day? Maybe a pre-optimization kind of. That's now what customers are looking toward us. We are an optimization company. Can you help us also in managing this inventory and production and then tie it to transportation? So give us more end-to-end from the supply chain perspective. So we talked about end-to-end on transportation, like long haul, last mile, but now this is tying to production, inventory management, and transportation together.
Brilliant. So yeah, you're sinking your teeth into other parts, going deeper into an even more sort of end-to-end solution. That's really, really interesting. It sounds like there's lots coming in there. And once customers can see what you can do for them, they obviously want to translate it into other areas, it seems. So in terms of your partnership with us here at Grey Matter, how did you first come across Grey Matter and start working with us?
Yeah, for routing, we started like developing the algorithms. Obviously, like as we mentioned, like map data is critical. We benchmarked like different map providers. Thought here will will be the best option at the time. Being like this predictive traffic, we can add parts to avoid certain roads, the toll roads, and other things. These were some of the features our customers were looking for. And then when we need to buy here, you can maybe sign up as developer, but as a SaaS company, we need to absorb all these costs. We don't charge our customers, this is your Optiyol license fee, this is your mapping fee, this is your cloud fee. So we need to provide them one package with one price, maybe, then turn it to one price per vehicle per month or like per delivery. So this, we need to be careful in managing costs. So that's how we met with Grey Matter in what's the most economical way of getting these map services. So we need map services for this distance calculations. Also in our web UI design, mobile app design, we also need map tiles, the mobile SDKs. So that's how we met and come up working with Grey Matter.
Yeah, definitely. So here has the back office APIs. It has the matrix routing. You can go ahead and produce those distances and journey times. And then, yeah, obviously here had the mobile SDK, and it did fit really well. And here's per asset billing. Is yeah, we're always discussing how it brings the best value to logistics companies. We have companies that today try and start with us, and on pay-as-you-go transactions, they ask for that, and then you explain to them that no, it's you want the per asset billing because it really does wrap up a lot of usage in that per vehicle. Here are a fleet logistics mapping provider, and they've got licensing. And yeah, this is a continuous discussion piece with other partners we have, Ozan, which is how can we marry up the billing? How can we take that here cost and then put it as a percentage of what you sell to the customer, and how do we keep those costs predictable and scalable? And you've been scaling with us now for a number of years, and yeah, that per asset billing has been tremendous boon for you. And I think also the mobile SDK, you're only paying for those active users each month, so you're not wasting any money there, and you are growing that monthly. Yeah, so you're very successful, and you've been growing that for some while. So how does our partnership support your development and cloud strategy, would you say?
Yep. For this one, like if you have like a good partner, then you focus on your core business. So we focus on our core business. If you have any issues related to here maps, like if you have any customer issue or like a billing issue, now we turn to Grey Matter for that. Even for support issues, like Grey Matter is helping us to accelerate the resolving of those issues. Sometimes we are discussing the roadmaps. We talk about new markets. When we want to go into a new market here, if they don't have the full coverage yet, Grey Matter helps us to get that knowledge earlier, like what are the plans in 1 year or 2 years when they expect to have the coverage on that market. So it's also helping in those areas to us.
Yeah, it keeps us on our toes. As I say, we always have to keep that dialogue with here. And I think what we try and do here is keep listening to what they're releasing to see how it can tie back to you. And yeah, it's our job to keep you informed if there's anything else coming around in terms of technology that you might want to launch and add to your platform. So I think you've touched upon a little bit earlier there about what's coming around the future, and you mentioned electric and autonomous trucks. But in terms of your solution, do you have any upcoming features or plans that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so we are like heavily working on like how to bring together AI and optimization together. So like the definition of AI is also like it depends, like optimization already like part of the AI stack. But like what people expect is like learning more. Key part for optimization is even if you have the best algorithms, you need to feed it with the right data. We talked about like map data, but the other data, how much time it takes to deliver to a customer. Are there any restrictions? What are the right times to deliver to this customer in the morning, in the afternoon? Depending on the product size, whether you deliver 3 pallets or 10 pallets, how does it impact your delivery duration? So those are the things which are hard. Like if you manage thousands of points for our customers to give the right data, right input all the time, and then if they don't provide the right input, then you you don't do the right routing. So we are turning to AI for that, analyzing all this tracking data that we collect through the mobile app. Also, you give a plan and then the dispatchers may override, they make changes, understand this editing behavior. We're analyzing those. Also, knowledge of the area is still key for drivers. Again, turning to historical data to capture which driver knows which area better. Can we give that information back to optimizer so that it's assigning a more preferable driver to that area? Mostly we are investing in how to incorporate this tracking data, create good insights, and then connect it back to optimizer, and then becomes a continuous loop. So you optimize, you learn, drivers go out, execute, you learn more from that execution, feed it back to optimizer. So at the end, it will create this autonomous flow. Then you don't need any planners in between. Because right now, because of these data issues, there is someone in between. Like optimization runs, a human reviews the plans and then makes the final approval. Or drivers may not exactly follow your suggested routes at the beginning until data is correct. So automating the learning from this will automate both sides. Because if a driver doesn't follow your suggestion, you are telling the customer that their delivery will be made at 10 a.m. But if he follows a different sequence, then that delivery goes in the afternoon where the customer is no longer at home. And then the other is like internal improvement of the processes in Optiyol. Now our developer teams, they're testing out, actively using this AI tools for development. For me, I also as a hobby project, I tried to develop like a no-code 3D loading optimization. Also
Interesting.
to experiment like what AI is capable of.
Yeah.
So my goal is to release that product without writing any code. I didn't write any code. It really looks good. And
Wow.
then there's an interested customer. They shared some data yesterday, so we'll try testing it. So it will be an interesting experience. So for Opti, built this tool in 10 years now with this 3D tool, like in 2 months, just in my free time, I give some prompts, review it. But it was also a good learning. Still, I don't think anyone just using those tools can build a
No.
tool for the industry.
You still need knowledge, Ozan, I think, don't you? You still need to know how to direct it.
Right. How to direct it, how to challenge it, how to test it, and then provide, keep giving feedback, improvements.
But so you're vibe coding in the laboratory, which is very exciting.
And that will be really extensions to our product. Like we want to connect it to our route planning, and then there will be this 3D tool. Again, with vibe coding, we build like an emission calculator. So actually, this gives us confidence. So as long as now we think we can build some algorithms, turning them into a software for our customers will be much easier, much faster. And then there will be like much faster iterations in the development cycle.
Brilliant. So it sounds like you're excited about vibe coding and you think it will speed up development and create, I think, from what you're saying, create novel solutions and lower the barrier of entry. Do you think the large language models of today, do you think that's going to change the way that the UI and people interact with your software? Because at the moment we're seeing in our industry that people are asking this question about large language models. Are they going to replace mapping platforms? The answer is not really. But if you hook them into the correct APIs, then they can have that knowledge. So here are releasing a product which basically enables you to communicate with a number of their APIs. You could ask for an optimization problem, and then here would call all the various APIs for you and give you that answer via a natural language query. Is that something your customers are asking for, that sort of way of interacting?
Yeah, some of them are asking, but like we already started working on it because like there's what we call right now a planning wizard. Like every day a planner comes to your screen, picks up the orders, chooses the trucks available, and then like clicks a button to optimize, maybe does some filtering, which orders to include, which trucks to include. So all that, like we want to replace those clicks, selections, filters with prompts. So you can write, I want to plan orders in this part of the city, like with these type of trucks, maybe with my small trucks. Just type it out or say it in voice, and then the system will understand, like find those orders, find those trucks, run the optimizer. And then again, learning from their historical behavior on this planned route, optimized versus the final execution. Also come up like saying that, okay, we planned this route, but you like balancing workload between drivers. Do you like me to balance the routes? Do you want me to produce you another option? maybe which is 2% higher mileage, but maybe more balanced workload between drivers. So if he says yes, then it will run and do that change on behalf of the planner. So this is like the conversational or prompt-based interface. It will come up like we are now at Optiyol V2, version 2, and then in version 3, we want to have this kind of interfaces. Similar with drivers, like for proof of delivery, again, they're clicking some buttons on the app. So instead of clicking buttons, so we can also do like with AS, LLMs, we can also collect more information from the field data as well. So it's because maybe they don't want to type notes, they can just talk with an AI and then provide their feedback about the delivery. For example, like today, this is Monday, parking was really hard in the street. Maybe you may direct me from a different direction, maybe from the back of the warehouse and so on. So we can collect more feedback, I think, from drivers, understand, process that data from them and improve optimization.
That is really exciting and a million times better than filling out a form. Yeah, there's nothing that frustrates more than paperwork. So having that capture point and a model that reasons and understands and learns and knows how to capture information is really exciting. And yeah, so that sounds really exciting. So in terms of other technologies and logistical trends, you touched upon it earlier. You started to mention electric and autonomous trucks. Where is your market at in terms of those vehicles of the future, would you say?
Yes, some of our customers, they're experimenting with the electric trucks. Still, it's not widely adopted, but they are experimenting in short distances in micro delivery. For that, like in the product, we are connecting with APIs which can predict the energy usage so that we can create a route based on the initial charging level of the truck. We give the right route for them within the limits of their like battery capacity. Otherwise, like if you are creating a route which is like more energy usage than their current capacity, then directing them to the right charging point, accounting for the charging duration. So those will be the things to accommodate like in route planning. So that's one piece. I also see some logistic customers in the long haul movements. They're also starting to experiment with like the Tesla semi trucks in the US as well. So that will impact optimization, I think, in the future.
So they're not hybrid. They're just smaller. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. Still, mostly still diesel trucks are most common, but we see like more and more companies testing out this electric. I think it's depending on the infrastructure. So I think they are ready to switch, but this charging infrastructure still remains a challenge for them. So once they have it resolved, it's really like the clean energy and then the cheaper way of distribution, and it will have an impact on Optiyol as well in creating the routes unit. This different philosophy of planning. And the other is the autonomous trucks. So recently, like a company in US called Gatik, you probably have seen, they started testing with PepsiCo trucks in the US, like 40 routes, fully autonomous trucks, drivers trucks are doing these deliveries. They're also testing with Walmart. I think that will become like a new technology going forward. Again, planning routes for a human driver versus an autonomous truck will be different because they will be able to run 24/7, no resting times and so on. Like the constraints will change. So they will not have the limitation of like the planning a rest for the driver.
Yeah, the rest points. Yeah, the robots are not gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna get heavy lids and fall asleep, are they?
You'll need to plan like a different optimization challenge, like the switch over points. At some point, like you need to switch from autonomous to maybe human for the final mile part of it, where to position those drivers who will do the loading, unloading piece, those centers on the city. Also in security wise, like which streets are available. It also has impact on the here maps. Now, like we'll look for here maps platform, which streets are available for this autonomous truck versus normal trucks.
Wow.
So, and then incorporating that into optimization, right? Then if you plan for an autonomous truck, you can only use these streets. Otherwise, you can use other streets. I think those will be the upcoming trends and challenges.
Sure. Are there autonomous trucks on the road then? How many do you think are on the road in America? Hundreds?
That company mentioned, like maybe just for the PepsiCo case, they mentioned 40 trucks are doing regular deliveries in 3 states of the US. There are also other like competitors. I think it may be at the level of hundreds right now, actively working across different companies.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. We're starting to see customers with mixed fleets. And here in the UK, we're starting to see some go-to-market plans for electric last mile vehicles. I really think electric and autonomous is really going to blow up everywhere effectively in the end, especially with the last mile piece as well. That's the easiest part to electrify, I think. And we're also starting to see these POCs, these plans where they're starting to put the electric trucks and even the electric cargo ships now onto common routes and just stress testing them. So yeah, I guess this is your job, Ozan, to keep going to events and keep building out that piece and looking at emerging technology. I would guess, is that your strategy?
Right. And the robotics, the development in robotics, I think it will impact the logistics a lot within the warehouse. Like the robots are like really increasing, like with the Amazon pioneering it. And also in the delivery process, some companies are experimenting with robots, like doing the final home delivery. That autonomous will truck will arrive, maybe a robot will come out and then take out the packages and then even deliver to your door, maybe get onto elevator or something. So that will really change how deliveries are made in the future.
Yeah, really will. Yeah, not seen those yet, but already starting to see some news footage of the tiny little robots on the street getting stuck. Yeah, it's definitely an iterative process, and it sounds like you're really excited by a lot of those trends. So thank you for your insight, Ozan. And finally, if you could give advice to the developers of today looking to build and scale their own tools, what advice would you give to those builders today?
Yeah, I think for developers of today, it's not about how to develop. The key question is what to develop, what challenge to address. I think that's the biggest challenge, which problem you want to solve. Because if you really choose a problem, then there are many tools available now to develop the right solution. So focusing on the right problem is key, and then being with the customer, hearing their feedback, what's missing from existing flows, rethinking the process end to end, and then how to fill the gaps in a new generation solution is key. And then continuous development, like simultaneous learning never ends. When you go out of school, you need to learn. And then the software is like that. You should keep building, keep developing. When you stop, someone will immediately replace you.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, it can be a cutthroat market for people who don't continuously improve. And yeah, that's a really, really key insight. I think staying close to the problems of the industry is really important, especially with startups and founders. Make sure you're grounded in real world problems, because if you're not, your solution's not going to find an audience, I would suppose. And yeah, absolutely key advice, Ozan. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Really, thank you for everything you've told us today in terms of how you've come to play in your market and what you're looking for to maintain your position, and how customers are a big part of that, and how some of those technological hurdles are coming down, some of those barriers as we go into a more autonomous AI driven future. And yeah, we hope that both Grey Matter and here can be a part of that. So yeah, brilliant. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Grey Matter Talks Tech. So once more, a huge thank you, Ozan, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite again. And yeah, for these great questions.
Thank you very much. And listeners, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the rest of season 5, where we'll be continuing to speak with developers from across the community about the apps they're creating and the technologies which are shaping the future of software. You can learn more about how we at Grey Matter can support you by heading to the website greymatter.com or sending an email to the team, info@greymatter.com. Thanks again for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.